Welcome back, panelists here. Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. Reid Wilson's the founder and editor-in-chief of Pluribus News, focusing on state legislatures, which seem to matter more and more these days. Republican political consultant Matt Gorman, and Maria Teresa Kumar, president of Voto Latino. I want to start with my conversation with James Comer. Susan, I think what's interesting is that he was, when I asked him the question, if not McCarthy, who? And that sounds like that's the question he's trying to ask all of his friends who are in that caucus of not Kevin McCarthy.
He made it clear McCarthy does not now have the votes to become Speaker. He said 5 to 8 votes potentially against him. He said he was hopeful that McCarthy would win. That's not a prediction. That's not a flat and confident prediction that he will win. The fact is Kevin McCarthy does not now have the votes to be elected Speaker. That doesn't mean he won't get them, but he'll get them if he gets them, he'll get them by making concessions that he will have to live with for the next 2 years.
Let me show you one, Reid. This was Kevin McCarthy in October on the issue of impeachment. Let me put it up on screen here. I think the country doesn't like impeachment used for political purposes at all. Again, this was to Punchbowl News on October of 2022. Now let me show you a quote from last week. If Secretary Mayorkas does not resign, House Republicans will investigate every order, every action, and every failure will determine whether we can begin impeachment inquiry. Sounds like he needs votes for Speaker.
The Freedom Caucus right now doesn't have a specific beef with Kevin McCarthy. All of the concessions that they're looking for are about future fights. And so what they are trying to extract, right, are essentially is the rope that would then be used to hang himself if the speakership, if he doesn't kowtow to their whims. And I think this is a part of it. This is sort of the political nightmare that McCarthy has. He is within reach of the goal that he has chased for his entire career, and yet it could be so short-lived if he's not either in service to the Freedom Caucus or in an election. If the House Republicans become Joe Biden's bad guy, this could be an extremely short-lived majority.
And Matt Gorman, I want to put up a list of people. You worked at the NRCC and you've worked at the NRSC, the places that have to re-elect, usually people in swing districts. Let me show you the 17 new Republican members of Congress who represent districts that voted for Joe Biden. By the way, every one of these folks reside in a state that Joe Biden carried, except for Don Bacon, who resides in a congressional district that Joe Biden actually got an electoral vote for. The point is, these are 17 votes. These are just as potentially important as any Freedom Caucus voter, right?
Yeah. And you even had Don Bacon come out. I think there might have been one other person saying, I am only voting for Kevin McCarthy. So get your act together, guys.
There's
no other option. Yeah. No, look, and I think also with oversight, too, they've started laying some groundwork being like, wait a minute, we're going to D.C. to do other things, not just investigate full time. I think that provides a check as well. One thing I will also say.
By the way, Comer never mentioned the word Hunter Biden.
Yeah, I found that interesting, too.
I asked him what his priorities are. Look, this was one of those cases where I wanted to see what he would say, because I think it was important. What he was going to say to an audience that's not a partisan audience. It's more of a bipartisan audience, and lo and behold, no Hunter Biden.
I think one issue when it comes to oversight that will get folks on the Freedom Caucus, but also these folks in Biden states, will be the origins of COVID. And not making it personal, but being like, look, how do we prevent another global pandemic? And to your point about China, what are they covering up? You will never, ever, ever lose votes
by taking on China. He's ready to have these.
Yes.
He's ready to have these same conversations. Yeah. I think you're not wrong on this. That is a more unifying place to start.
Absolutely.
Than someplace else.
So I think one of the biggest challenges with Kevin McCarthy is that his initial reaction of the insurrection was wrong. The fact that you should be impeaching is wrong. And then he basically goes back and says, but how do I get power? And the interesting thing about Kevin McCarthy is that he's a politician first. He's not a policy guy. And the people here, they are politicians first. Yeah. So I think that this is all basically doing a horse ride, trying to figure out what are the concessions that we can get in trading whatever you want for speakership. At the end of the day, what we're going to see, I think, out of the Republican-controlled Congress is very much, yes, these investigations, but it's all machinations behind the curtain, things that people in the American public don't understand. And it's all, how do we control the ways and means? How do we actually control the mechanics of legislation? And that has long-term effects that we will feel later.
Susan, the other thing, and I could sort of sense the sort of discomfort when I asked Congressman Comer about this Nick Fuentes, this white supremacist, the anti-Semite, Kanye West, who goes and has dinner with Donald Trump. The Freedom Caucus and James Comer's constituents are, they're Trump people. But it's an uncomfortable place to be. And I think the last thing he would want is his investigations get wrapped up in Trump.
Yeah. His comment was interesting because he said he should have shown better judgment. In Trump world, that is pretty fierce criticism for somebody who's been aligned with
That's
Trump.
considered, whoa, he really singed him.
But you know what? I think what you see with Republican voters in the midterms and with more and more Republican officials is a desire for Trumpism, but less of a desire for Trump. A desire, I mean, he's remade the Republican Party. They're going to be following in his footsteps regardless of who the next nominee is. But Trump himself has become less electable, more controversial, and more looking back as opposed to forward.
I thought I would see more proactive condemnation. This was an opportunity for some Republicans to sort of kick him while he was down, and they didn't.
Well, and I mean, to Susan's point, I think that the party has been so remade in the image of Donald Trump that we're seeing Trump 2.0 everywhere. We're seeing it in Florida with Ron DeSantis. We're seeing it in Texas with Governor Greg Abbott. To a degree in Arizona with Governor
none of them meet with white supremacists or Kanye West. Right? Is that
this
the big
is this is the 2.0 part. This is the part that is the improvement, if I can use that word. But it is these are the candidates who are honing themselves for a 2024 election.
Yeah, no, when I think of it, the opposite of hate is not love. The opposite of love is indifference. This helps make, I think, a lot of the party indifferent to Trump now.
Indifference is actually the worst thing for him.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
The best way to torture him, not care.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.